Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Cocktails and Convos. My name is Chris, and my pronouns are he and him.
My name is Shane, and my pronouns are he or they.
And my name is Tyler, and my pronouns are he and him.
All right, awesome. As you can see, we have attacking Tucans on again because we just couldn't get enough of him, and we were like...
Because I have nothing else better to do with my time. Just kidding. That actually didn't make... That seems weirder than I said.
No, you got me. So we've got Tyler here today because we were sitting here and we said...
Why not?
Why not? Let's have him stay on.
We love him.
You guys
the last one was so much fun. I honestly didn't want to stop.
Yeah, me too. I was really into the last conversation. All right, today our drink of the day is a blackberry mojito. Tyler's a little different because, again, from last episode, I didn't plan enough for this, so...
Mine's a mojito.
Mojito. All right, and
so we dipped his toe in for the stir. And that's where the whiteness comes from.
Yes. All right, and today we are going to be talking about body positivity. More specifically, we're going to be discussing the body positivity movement, and is the body positivity movement problematic?
Yeah, is it bad?
Is it bad? Is it good? We're going to kind of dig into some things.
I would say a little bit of both.
Yeah. Starting off strong with opinions. As again, just to make sure you guys, if you're enjoying at home, enjoy responsibly, of course.
Yes, please enjoy with us, but enjoy responsibly only if you're of age.
If you're not of age.
I know some of y'all back home are not of age.
I mean,
we love you.
We love you. Be safe.
Be safe.
Yeah, I totally waited till I was 21 to drink alcohol.
If I'm real, I did not.
But we want you to be safe.
We want you to be safe.
I hope you could tell from my sarcastic tone that I was lying.
Fair. All right, Shane, let's talk a little about this. Where did the body positivity movement get its start?
So it actually started way back in the 1850s through the 1890s, where the Victorian dress reform movement started, which is where women were like, screw corsets. We do not want to wear these anymore. They're uncomfortable. They're awful.
They create disfiguring injuries.
Yeah, they're the worst. We're not going to wear them anymore. We don't want them.
Yeah, so
what exactly do corsets do?
Corsets push everything up, in essence, and push everything in.
Yeah, okay. So they're like, let's give you a tiny, tiny waist. So they're going to enhance your bust and your hips and give you a tiny waist.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So they make your waist teeny, teeny, tiny. They make your hips really big and your bust really big.
It's a very specific image. It's like,
so think of the hourglass figure.
The hourglass figure. Okay. It shapes that. And so corsets are a problem for a lot of reasons, because if you wear a corset over a long period of time, think about Chinese foot. I can't remember the term. That molding is the wrong word, but
Chinese foot binding.
Binding, yeah. And so it literally forces your body, especially if you wear them over long times, it forces your intestines and your organs to move to different spots in your body, which is super not okay for you.
And it's a similar problem to like trans and gender non-conforming people wearing a chest binder.
Binders, yep.
Where it causes your ribs to actually form in the wrong position.
Yeah, right. Your ribs are meant to enhance and contract based on your breathing because there's cartilage that allows them to move with your lungs.
But basically, so the whole point is back in the 1850s, women were like, corsets, no, we're out. We don't want these anymore. We're not going to wear them. Screw this.
I'm wondering what percentage of women in that era actually wore corsets.
Well, especially if you, in the Victorian era, and fashion, of course, for any era, the people who were well off were more likely to have things like that. Corsets classically were made of whale bones.
Yeah.
For what they were made of, but boning also is made of synthetic materials as well. But most people who were well off, even middle class, probably for the fashion of the time, were likely to wear corsets.
Yeah.
And so it was a large enough percentage of women that it was a problem.
Yeah. I mean, even if you didn't own multiple, you probably owned
at least one, yeah.
That you wore all the time.
Specifically because it was such a huge part of fashion in the time period.
Yeah. So basically, not really the super important part, but it started out in the Victorian era. So anyways, after that, it was the thing to do, but they were like, we're out on this. But after that, a little bit further on, in like the 1960s, late 1960s.
So about 100 years later.
100 years later.
Almost literally, yeah.
2,000 years later.
They actually formed the National Association to Advance Fat Acceptance.
And this was started out as an American movement, correct?
I'm not actually sure on that.
But you're right.
I have no clue.
We'll post a real fact, bing, right here.
How did they go about having a movement to accept fat people?
So it actually started with one article, which was, I believe, something, I'm not exactly sure on what the exact words were, but more people should be fat.
Okay.
And they formed an association which was basically about not all people are unhealthy at a higher body weight.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So being fat isn't necessarily bad.
No.
So that was basically what this was. So that happened late 1960s, 1970s, basically.
Yeah, so kind of just jumping back, the root of the Victorian dress reform movement was not only was physically deforming and causing actual problems, and the National Association of Advanced Fat Acceptance became a thing because of the growing notion from that time period on to that, even today, because of the obsession with thinness and what it meant to be thin.
Yeah.
Specifically, originally, a lot of these movements started with women.
Yeah.
Today, more men body positivity is becoming a popular fashionable idea.
Now, it's still very,
very
slow.
And we'll get into that, but the gay community has a very large body image issue problem because of our obsession with fitness and imagery and what is fashionable to look like at any given time period. But this, just starting out, a lot of these things were focused on women specifically, and our obsession with what is the ideal body type, beauty standards, things like that.
Which have changed through the years.
Significantly. If you look at...
even just within the span of 10 to 15, 20 years, it changes so much.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at, the very early 2000s versus, now... we went from wanting a woman to look very stick thin to
almost androgynous.
Now we want thick with at least 4 C's.
We want thick, double C thick.
Yeah.
Which means a very thin waist, but curvy.
Very feminine type. Think of like fertility statue features, bazangas, bozangas, the whole thing.
We want the hourglass figure. Yeah. We've come back to
pretty much the type of figure you need. It's pretty much like girls eating. You have to eat a lot, but also do a lot of squats.
Yeah.
So all of your weight goes straight to your ass. That's it.
Yeah. Just bootylicious. Yeah.
So we're basically going in circles here.
Yeah, for real.
With what we want. But the real thing is we've kind of have this body positive movement that has started way back in the 1800s and it has kept pushing forward.
Mm-hmm.
And
we say that it started in the 1800s, but let's be realistic. It probably started way before that. It's been a thing forever, I'm sure.
People have had body image issues, Jesus Christ, probably forever. Because there's always some idealized standard, and that goes into our very biology of okay, I'm going to get weird for a second. Humans look for things that are attractive to them, and it's actually very strange that humans, like, we all have different standards and tastes for what we like, but you look at somebody in a specific way, and that's their chance that you're going to reproduce a healthy child.
Mm-hmm.
And so you look at a certain person and you go, okay, on a very subconscious biological level, you go, that person could fuck, that's cool, we'd make a great baby together. And so that's one of the reasons sexual traits being advanced in a certain way, for example, big breasts are unique in humans because as primates, very few other primates have big titties all year round. Whereas humans, they just like big titties became a sexual icon in our evolution. And we want to make that happen so more people bred with big titties, so on and so forth. And so, that's a big part of the body positivity thing is on a biological level, we look at a person and go, is that a desirable thing that I want to pass on?
Which gets even weirder when you're gay.
It's a whole other level of things that we look into.
It's such a whole nother, I'm just listening to this, but I'm just thinking about how none of it aligns with gay culture.
It's real.
It's interesting.
But in the same way you see, okay, so I'm a bigger dude, and that's it is what it is. And, some people will look at that and go, no, homeboy's not healthy. I'm not going there. Some people go, "Oh, homeboy can clearly afford a lot of food." Okay, there's different images of someone.
Like fatter men used to be like people wanted that because it meant
absolutely.
Because it meant you can afford
homeboy
food.
had some money. Yeah. And specifically,
it's weird how it's like the opposite now. Because now if you're poor, you're more likely to be fat because you can't afford the healthy food.
Because shitty food is cheap as hell now, especially in America or Western countries.
You can't afford healthy food, so.
Yeah, you're probably too busy working like a crappy job that you can't afford to go to work out yourself or something. So that's
so real. It's so real, and it's
180 degrees.
Yeah, it's so unfortunate that and I guess the baseline purpose of fucking and sexuality in an evolutionary stand is passing on traits to breed, but nowadays that's not necessary anymore. So now sexuality is more about pleasing somebody else or having fun with somebody in love and all that fun stuff. And so the body positivity movement has a really interesting spin now.
Also, the weird mix of there's not just the physical aspect of are you healthy enough to pass on your genes?
Mm-hmm.
There's okay, not to get too deep into this, but
please.
You
let's get deep,
deep motherfucker.
Are you psychologically healthy enough?
For sure.
Because I'm not gonna go too deep into my psychological history.
Sharing it with the internet.
I mean, welcome to the internet.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for,
Welcome
honestly.
to my personal life. But I've struggled with depression and anxiety, and I cannot physically reproduce children. But I would not want to. I do not want to reproduce children because I do not want to pass on my genes. No shade at my family.
No shade at your parents.
No shade to my parents. But with my history of depression, anxiety, and chronic illness, I don't want to pass that on to my children.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
I don't want them to
It's almost
deal
kind of selfish that a lot of humans care so much about passing on their gene.
Right.
Yeah.
Some people would rather pass on their gene more than help out other children.
Yeah,
just because they have to have their kid be a biological offspring.
They have to have their normal ass life, and
I don't want my kids to ever have to go through the physical or psychological pain that I've gone through.
Yeah,
I have chronic pain. I have chronic illness and psychological issues that I do not want to pass on to my kids. I have ADHD, I have major depressive disorder, and I have generalized anxiety disorder. My kids don't need that, and they will likely get it.
Yeah.
So no, thank you.
So,
I don't want to pass that on.
Right.
And good on you for that.
So
doesn't mean they'd 100% have it.
It doesn't.
Right.
But the likelihood that they would,
it does raise the
develop
chance.
something for sure.
And this is
they have to deal with that
saying-
problem, but then as a parent, you also have to deal with that.
Yeah, and this is
that's
not
a lot
saying
of stress
that
on you.
if you have those issues that you should not reproduce.
For real, yeah.
There's no shame in doing that. I'm just saying that personally, that is not something that I want to do.
Yeah. So this is I really like where this is going. I feel this is a really healthy conversation. I really enjoy that we're being personal and we're sharing some things. We should maybe get into what potential things could be, so going back to maybe a potential health issue or whatever, what could be possibly construed as a problematic part of the body positivity movement?
So I would personally say that
For sure.
think I guess to a point where I think being overweight is okay to an extent. There is eventually a line you can cross. I'm not saying that it's necessarily you shouldn't shame people who are past that line. But at the same time, I don't think we should be saying, oh, it's okay. They can be beautiful people. There are beautiful fat people. But at the same time, I don't think that we should be saying that it's okay to be at that point. Because if you're at that point, you're not at that point because you're making good life choices.
Right, exactly.
It means you're putting things in your body that you shouldn't be putting in your body
for sure. And here's where genetics are crazy, because there are people who are overweight that have extreme, and this happens everywhere, where obviously there's very strong science to support that being overweight causes increased risk of diabetes, heart disease, et cetera, et cetera. There's many things. But genetically, there's some people who are more resilient to things like that. For example, like I said, I'm an overweight person. I will fully own that, acknowledge that, I understand that. I'm not delusional in any way. my blood work is really good. I don't have any risk of diabetes right now. All my like different blood levels are fine. I'm doing well for a person who's overweight who maybe somebody else might not be in that same case. Yeah. It's, genetics plays a very large role in how your body reacts to
There's
certain
also different
things.
types of overweight. You can be overweight because you're eating cookies and chips every single day. Like bullshit all the time,
yeah.
Or you could be overweight because you are eating too much of healthy foods. Like that is a possibility.
Oh, absolutely.
Well. I mean, so somebody who's eating way too much, just like say, I mean, it's hard to get to that point, but who's eating a lot, but you're just not working it off. So you're just like, you live a sedentary lifestyle.
Yeah, maybe your job is sedentary. Yeah.
So somebody who's overweight because they're sedentary is still healthy, but if you're overweight because you're eating chips, you can also like you can kind of
you're shoveling dumb shit down your throat.
Yeah, you can kind of like see like by complexion and stuff.
The other part of it is there are medical conditions that can cause you to hold weight.
Yeah, there's pituitary things. There's plenty of things.
Hyperthyroidism. Yep. There's a lot of different things that can cause that. So it might not necessarily be your fault.
Yeah.
So you can be eating really healthy. You can be going to the gym. You can be trying to work it off. I mean, and there's other part of, okay, so I'm really lucky. I have a really super high metabolism and whatever. But if I ate the way that I did, because honestly, I kind of eat like shit, and I am not physically able to work out right now, like, I'm going to be real. I use crutches and a walker most of my life. But, like, if I didn't have a fucking great metabolism, I'd be overweight,
Yeah,
like
I feel you, love. Yeah.
I eat like shit. I ate like 18 mini muffins for breakfast. Like,
yeah. And part of your weight is so determined by your biology, which is crazy because if you think about, going back to why people are overweight, a lot of times it is not only your eating habits and your mobility habits and your movement and, whatever, but like, as a creature, as a straight up animal being, your brain goes, I want to eat that because God knows there might not be food later. Your brain is so primitive; it doesn't understand that we live in a time, especially in America, we live in a time where there's essentially unlimited food.
Yeah,
and so your body doesn't necessarily, and your psychology, even your subconscious, doesn't work that way. And so many.
I wonder if eventually, because this is still like a relative.
Yeah.
I wonder if our psychology will. Which I guess for lots of people it probably has.
Oh yeah,
I definitely think that.
But I think
we will evolve to that point where
I came from a lower income housing. Like I grew up poor. Like we ate like crap growing up. Like just pretty much macaroni, pasta, pizzas. Like because it was cheaper, or whatever. We ate healthy like occasionally, but because it was way cheaper, I had 4 siblings. Like we ate like crap.
Big family,
and like. Our food would like go fast because you're like sharing it between a lot of people. So you would like try to get as much as possible. So it, like I kind of was chubby as a kid and I didn't even like realize it took me until like when I was an adult to like completely reassess my eating habits and be like, you are not eating the way you're supposed to be eating. You're eating like 100%. Like even when I go home for like Christmas and stuff, like the way my family eats, it kind of like it kind of just like makes me sick like seeing it. I'm just like
Did you ever do like the defensive eating thing where there was like there's 3 muffins left and there's 4 of you, so you grab one really fast when you're not hungry and you eat it anyways because there might not be one left when you want it.
Yeah. That's totally real. Yeah, absolutely.
I used to do all the time because you had to eat when there was food left.
Yeah, and then also you had to just eat even if you weren't hungry, like because that's when your meal was made or whatever.
Yeah.
Your parents were like, eat it, and then they would make you finish your plate even if you weren't even that hungry.
Real.
Because you don't look at food as just like this commodity that you can have whenever you want. Like if you're poor, you have to eat what's given to you at that point, and you eat then because you're not eating later, and so you might overeat. Like it's just whenever you're low income housing, the way you think of food and eat is not right, and it kind of sucks. And you have to break that mentality. It sucks.
It's a whole different ball game. And I remember my dad when he was growing up, he grew up on a farm, and they were poor, and his parents came from the Great Depression, so you ate what was there and you finished it because there might not be the next meal at the same time. And so my dad was grown up in that household. So he imparted that on my sister and I that no, you eat what's here and you eat it all because you have to.
Mm-hmm.
And, so much of food and so much of body weight is such a psychological thing.
Oh, yeah.
And if those habits are formed when you're a kid, it's very hard for your brain to overcome that and change that, because
I feel so sorry for fat kids, because
it's real.
It's not, first off, it's not their fault whatsoever.
Oh yeah, not at all.
And they're gonna have to deal with that their whole entire life.
Absolutely.
The psychology, like they might eventually lose the weight. They're gonna psychologically be dealing with food problems their whole entire life.
I was gonna say
body image dysmorphia, everything.
Absolutely, yeah. I used to be, I was a chubby kid, and then in high school I got really thin and really fit. And then as I've gotten older, I've gotten overweight again, which, like, you know, again, here and there, whatever. But even when I was at my most healthy, and I looked fucking good, at my most healthy, I still believed that I looked awful and I was disgusting and I had this problem. I still thought I looked bad.
Oh, I still have that.
Which is crazy.
I lost 100 pounds and I still, like, well, I don't think even if I had the best body in the world, I'd be happy with myself.
Same, totally.
I feel you. I mean, I've been in eating disorder treatment like 3 times, so
I've never been to a doctor or psychologist about it. Like, my family always tells me to, and I'm just like, that costs money. Like, I don't have the money for that. Like,
so
thank God for insurance.
Right. Well, this is a good conversation to get into, because we're talking about, is this problematic? And, you know, when we originally wrote this topic in this prompt, we talked about, is it problematic in the sense that, is it, you know, Shane and I talked about, is this promoting maybe unhealthy eating or unhealthy weight? But now we're in this whole new factor where now we're talking, is it problematic in the sense that, is it causing psychological problems to kids and to people because there's a very specific image that we're maybe trying to obtain that causes people who maybe aren't able to obtain that image damage?
That's what, because that was my problem, because the media is definitely run by people who have a bit more money and who have a bit more freedom. So if you're like a high school kid and you're seeing this media where like everyone's beautiful, and then even when you're in high school yourself, there is lots of beautiful kids in high school as well.
Oh yeah.
And you're almost like, you want to get to that point, and like you might exercise a lot or whatever, and you might try to eat less, but like a lot of your environment is just like a big part of that. And that's why I've seen a lot of kids never fully get out of that until they finally move out and have like complete control, until they get their own income. Is when I see a lot of kids finally like get their grasp on their own lives and are able to pull that all back together.
That's real.
Personally, for me, that happens.
Yeah, that's part of your reality.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the other part to it is really, when you look at it, it's like, so with the body positive movement, it's not, they come in and they're like, you don't have to look like these Hollywood stars. You don't have to look great.
Obtainable imagery that you can't get to.
But the issue is they expect you to love yourself how you are, which isn't possible because you've been through however many years of psychological damage.
Yeah, that's so real.
This body positive movement almost makes you feel worse in a sense.
You're like, why don't I love myself?
Why don't I love myself? If, you know, I can't remember her name. There's that YouTuber that does like, she's like this plus size woman that does all these like.
Trisha Paytas?
No, she does like clothing hauls.
I'm not sure, but I don't remember.
I know. Anyways, but there's like these plus size women, or there's all these people that are bigger. That are coming out and saying, I love myself the way that I am. And here I am. Why can't I just love myself for who I am? So it almost puts it more stress on where you are.
It's crazy.
So I'm not saying that the body positive movement is bad, because it shines a light on, we don't all have to look like Hollywood stars. But at the same time, it brings in this extra stress of, if people are looking just the way that they are, they're bigger people, they have stretch marks, they have
right. It's about loving your flaws and loving who you are.
If they can love who they are, why can't I? So it's kind of like this double-edged sword of, you don't have to look great, but also I still can't love myself.
That's kind of a bad word, though. Like, you don't have to look great. You can look like shit. You know what I mean?
Well, no, and that's, again, exactly
that's the problematic wording of it.
That's the double-edged sword that I'm talking about. You don't have to look
a specific way.
Hollywood star. You don't have to look like the exact.
So that's probably the whole purpose of the body positivity movement, is to try to get people who have the mentality that you have to love yourself the way you are. To try to help you find that inner peace within yourself.
But it also brings this added stress of, why can't I just love myself for who I am? And no one can do that
on
their own after God knows
years of damage,
years of psychological damage, and just, like you can't go through, let's say, 16 years of just hating yourself because you don't look.
It's not a switch.
You can't just...
It's not a light switch that you can just see a picture of someone that's bigger and say, oh yeah, I'm the same way. I can love myself.
Yeah, it's real.
And then a lot of it doesn't even just come to fat. Like there's so much more to your body than just your fat
percentage.
And
can we unpack that word, fat?
Yeah, because fat isn't,
Fat isn't bad.
No, your body is supposed to have a percentage of body fat. And, fat...
Lots of my, like, going back to that word, like, a lot of my family, they, like, personally tell me, they were like, I wish you would gain some weight back. They were like, you look better when you have more weight on you. And, like, I'm, like, here thinking, like, I still wish I weighed less than what I do now.
Yeah.
And so, like, my family's telling me the opposite of, like, what I want to hear. They're trying to push me in the opposite direction of where my goals lie. And it creates this, like, it puts this, like, mentality in my mind. So is me getting closer to my personal goal make me ugly to the people that I, like, want, like, the validation from?
Yeah. It just puts you in the spot of, I will never be happy.
I think, just to touch on some of the things we talked about, this has been a really good conversation. Just a little history of the body positivity movement, too, that we get into. We're talking a lot about weight and a lot about health and a lot about what's good and what's bad. I think it's smart to acknowledge that the body positivity movement has grown outside of just a weight and a physicality issue. I think it's important to acknowledge that a lot of this movement has grown to encompass,
complexion,
people of color, trans people, queer people.
Yeah.
I think that's a really valid thing to think about. Is
the weirdest thing is like bone structure, body structure.
That's a very real thing. Yeah.
Things like that. Height is like another big one.
Oh yeah.
Can we talk about height?
Yeah.
How lots of people like think they're ugly if they're too short.
Yeah.
Which I don't fully understand.
I
personally think tall people look awful. And I think short people look great. And so when people like tell me they're jealous because I'm tall, I'm like, I'm jealous because you're short.
Yeah.
Like it's just
I'm happy being right in the middle.
Yeah. So like it just goes to every single sort of physical attribute.
There's everything.
Unbelievable what goes into attractiveness and breed and wanting to have sex and hair
amount.
It's
my God.
It's
facial
crazy.
Hair, body hair.
So
that's a
I'm
huge
self-conscious
one.
about the size of my feet. So
yeah, I feel you.
There's
it's
everything.
And I think when we get down to the nitty-gritty, I think the body positivity movement has a lot of very valid and strong things that help people feel good about who they are. And I think that's the direction that I think we need to go. I think
we need to find a way to wrap this in a more positive note.
Yeah,
right now we're on a lower bit of a
right.
note.
I think overall the best thing about it is what we can learn from all this is that you need to understand that yes, you need to be very conscious of being healthy and smart, psychologically sound, but you also need to understand that there are factors out of your control that you may or may not be able to obtain something that maybe you want. I really think that it's important to understand the pros and cons of what the body positivity movement is saying, whether it's bad or good. I think it's important to understand that, you need to look at your psychology, your biology, or who you are to, find that self-love in yourself and to understand where is the line, how does it go,
Yeah. Definitely.
I would say my final thought of this is it doesn't like fully matter about how you look too much because when it all comes down to it, we're all way harder on ourselves than anybody else around us ever is. We put like all these feelings that we have like on ourselves that are like self-deprecating. They're usually in our heads. The people around us usually do not think or feel these ways towards us.
For real.
And so you kind of just got to keep that in mind. And that's kind of where the self-love comes in. You got to kind of like cast away those feelings. They'll never go away, but you have to just kind of accept certain things. And you should still make healthy choices in life. There's no matter what the body positivity movement says, still drink a lot of water, still try to make as good as health choices as possible.
Yeah.
Try to minimize your amount of alcohol and drug intake. Even though it might be fun, try to minimize that.
Yeah.
Still try to live the healthiest life you can be, but at the same time, give yourself a little bit of slack.
Yeah.
It's not as...
Have fun.
The people's judgment is not nearly as much as you think it is. And if people are thinking those things towards you, then fuck those people, honestly.
Yeah,
Fuck
I agree with
people.
that. This has been such a good talk. Tyler, thank you so much for being
Thanks
here.
for having me. I love talking with you guys. It's so much
hell
fun.
yeah, absolutely. Hell yeah. I want to know what you guys think, what everyone at home thinks.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Cheers to you, my friends. Thank you for being part of it.
Thank you so much. Welcome to the conversation.
Damn, this drink is so delicious, though.
I'm glad you like it. I'm really glad you like the drink.
Muy delicioso. No.
Muy, yeah. Sí, yeah. This was a good talk.
It was.
I felt that it wasn't as much bullshit as the last one.